Good evening, Raanan. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
So I was just asking you earlier, how many interviews did you have in the last week alone, if I may ask?
Yeah, it's wild. It's in the last almost 6 months since my book launched. I've been all around the place.
I didn't know you have a book.
Yes, and very happy to share and discuss with entrepreneurs, with students, universities, anyone that's interested in this journey. So I'm very happy to be here.
We are as well. We're very happy to have you here. And you know, you have such an incredible experience. And I'm sure the people in the audience and so many people that are enjoying, also myself, enjoying listening and watching your interviews. And also I listened to your book. And you have such a wealth of knowledge. And I think, and we'll discover that through the conversation, that you're so, I would even say, brutally honest in a good way. And it's so amazing to see someone who's tachlis, who's straightforward, and you really share the journey, I think, without sugarcoating it. So I want to thank you so much for sharing the message. And with that in mind, when I look at you, and again, based on all the research and knowledge I have, I see a few, I would say, keywords about you. You started as a salesperson, entrepreneur, out of the box thinker. When I read your book, I discovered a lot of ego, I would even say. Mind maybe games, smarts, yoga, meditation, running. Who is Ra'anan Cohen, if you don't mind me asking?
Wow. I think, personally, when I'm looking back, I changed a lot. So I heard your description of me, thinking back when I started, and I was also going to these meetups. I started my tech career and my entrepreneurship journey by chance. My first job, my first adult job was at 30, when I was 30 years old, as a project manager in a startup. I never imagined that I would build my own company and be a CEO. So all these things that you mentioned, when I look back, I didn't even imagine that I have this in the stars. So I think there's a lot of evolution. Just like that, if just a few years ago, if you would tell me I would write a book that would be a bestseller, a national bestseller, I would think you're crazy. So I think the question is today, and by the way, when I meet people, I usually stopped asking what do you do, or tell me. I like to ask what's your passion, because it changes, and you can build a new life out of it. And yeah, so specifically, all the stuff that you mentioned are things I gathered along the way.
You can say they were all passions at the time.
Yes, sports is a big passion of mine. I write and talk about it a lot. And also mindfulness, and obviously entrepreneurship and what comes with it. So you know, I evolve.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you didn't know what you actually wanted to do in a way, and passion led you in a way, but what did you think you would do when you grew up as a younger man?
I thought I would be the first Israeli player in the NBA.
And what happened?
You know, I didn't grow that big enough or good enough. But, you know, back then, I see today, I talk to a lot of students and young entrepreneurs that are like here, 20-year-olds. Today, we're living in an amazing era because you can be exposed and get inspiration from, I can follow Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and I, at any age, I can adopt and learn. When I started, we didn't have this, so we didn't even think about it. And we just like kind of rolled with life, and after the military service, and then I worked for the government a few years, and I started studying. I thought I like numbers, so I went to study accounting, which I hated. And 4 years after that, I said, okay, this is not something I want to do with. And in retrospect, almost everything that happened to me, it looks like it was a sliding door by chance. Like literally, the way I started working in tech was I got a phone call from a friend I used to play basketball in the neighborhood, and I was frustrated with the accounting after all these studies, thinking I'm going to do internship 2 years in KPMG, nightmare. And he says, listen, bro, you want to work for a startup? I asked him, what are you talking about? What is it? He says, listen, it's like a young tech company, and we need someone who lived abroad, knows English, who can work between the engineers and the customers, and you get a free gym membership. I said, I'm in. And that's how I started working in a startup. And I was very fortunate, without any planning, to find myself in an amazing startup with amazing founders that were not only very high performers, but were great people. And again, in retrospect, they were my mentors. I learned everything from them. And after 3 years as an employee, the stars aligned, and I found myself saying, okay, I'm going to open my own startup. So it's kind of, I didn't really know what I want to do. And both of the companies, MobileMax and Bring, maybe we could talk about it later, the trigger, the seed that planted my desire to open them was a personal pain, personal problem. With MobileMax, I was back then traveling a lot to customers, and the roaming calls were very expensive, and I was using calling cards. I don't know if you know about it. It's like all these numbers, and you make mistakes. It's a nightmare. And I said, listen, we got to solve this. Maybe an app, maybe something. So this was one solution. With Bring, there was another pain, very strategic pain. The pizza was late every time we ordered. And I said, okay, we need to look into these deliveries and logistics. So again, it's kind of things that just happened.
Yeah. And, you know, it's interesting because eventually, I think as I would generalize as Israelis, you know, we can handle, even if we don't, we are sure we can handle anything life brings over. And I think, obviously for entrepreneurs, the journey is crazy. We know it, we don't need, to say too much about it. And I want to ask you what helped you to deal with the toughest moments? For example, one of the moments you shared in the story also was that you decided to let go of $10 million in investment. And once you realized that, I think the company went down, you were shocked that all the savings for your kids, studies and future were actually gone. And this is a really, really tough place to be in, that you made the wrong decision that will have such a big consequences in the future. So my question is, what helped you deal with the toughest moment of this horrible and not easy roller coaster?
Yes, you're very kind describing it like that. It was a very stupid mistake. Okay, just to put things in context, MobileMax, we had a solution for the cellular world, super successful. We did an IPO, became a public company. I had it all the dream life of press and stages, and everything was going up. And I had the opportunity to sell, but I wanted just a little bit more, and I refused in a very arrogant mindset. I refused any offer to sell my shares, and eventually things happen. In this case, iPhone and Android came to the world, cellular world changed, and the company went down. I found myself, after 8 years of building a company, doing an IPO, with a lot of memories, but not a cent out of this journey. I found myself in a pretty tough situation where at the age of 40, I blew it, and I need to reinvent myself. And so what helped me is, like Golda Meir used to say, our strategy is no alternative. I had 4 kids, and I need to go on, but these were very, very complicated months, a long period where I tried to reinvent, to think of the next thing. And every day, these thoughts of, okay, maybe this is not for me. Maybe I should find a normal job, a day job, pay my bills, and live my life. And you second guess yourself. And especially with all these retries. I used to come up with a new idea, think I found the next Google, I'm hyped. I try to take it forward, and in a few days or weeks, like most ideas, nothing happens with it. So all these ups and downs, and throughout this period, what helped me, I talk about
Can I say, I guess what helped you was ordering pizza?
ordering, yes, so pizza and sports. So my drug is sports and running and various types of sports. My morning routine for the last 20 years. I wake up in the morning, I do an hour or two of some kind of sport. It could be even walking or yoga or anything, but this is how I start my day every day. In my companies, I used to run or bike to the office and find a solution for a shower. And I've been asked also by investors, hey, Al, you're a CEO, you have time for all your sports and all your marathons or whatever. So I used to ask them back, do you do any meetings in 7 a.m.? Right? In tech, no one does meetings in 7 a.m. or 8 a.m.
Yeah.
So this is where I found, and this is, by the way, one of the lessons that I like to share with entrepreneurs and CEOs when they are in the grind. It's a real grind. And it's very difficult to, almost impossible to share it with someone because it's so intense. I think I've discussed with one of you before, even if you have a mentor or someone you talk to once a week, the days are so intense. By the end of the day, you forget what happened in the morning. It's not enough. So you're lonely. There's no one else you can talk to. Only you and whoever you believe in. And this is what I did. I found it in the morning. I go out, I do my run or my walk or my bike or whatever. And this was like a secret drug pill that helped me get through the day. And day by day. You know, if you're in motion and you're staying in the game, then eventually you'll come up with something.
There is no alternative,
exactly.
as you're saying.
So, yeah.
And can you raise your hands, which one of you are entrepreneurs, have a company, or want to become entrepreneurs? Okay, most of you. So you can definitely relate to those tough moments. And I guess we all find our drug. I mean, as you called it, you say yours was running and sports. I guess you all have your rituals or beliefs or whatever helps you. But by listening to your book, I heard there were some more of those. And one of them was that you paid yourself and your co-founder 21.1 thousand shekels for many years. Can you share why was that and what other maybe rituals helped you and maybe help you bring luck or feel luckier?
Yeah, so these were like small games that we did. Both of us are runners and we like marathons. Marathon is, 42.2 kilometers. So first year we didn't take a salary, but after we did our A round or something, we said, okay, we're going to take a salary of 21.1 thousand shekels each. And by the way, when I registered the company, you register the company, you decide how many shares are in the company. So I did, I think it was 42,195,000. It's the number of millimeters in a marathon. So we did like games like that, and the investors didn't know how did we come up with these numbers. But again, with us, we built a company DNA around it. So we had, since day one, every employee got a gym membership. And everyone that had, and it has showers and laundry, so you don't even need to work out. You can make a walk in the park and then shower in the gym. And we decided that anyone that has any kind of sports activity competition, we will fund it. We had a pole dancer. Apparently there's competitions in that. We had taekwondo, we had any kind. And we weren't pushy, so if people weren't into sports, it's okay. And we just laid it out there. And
but you wanted to basically have more, I would say, active company or people that like kind of understand you because they're also into sports?
I think, yeah, sports is also, like, there's a saying, life isn't just sports, but sports also isn't just sports. So in sports, it's a matter of, first of all, of well-being. I strongly believe of the well-being, but also, it enables you to get this strong, the most important maybe muscle in the body, which is the muscle of believing in yourself. If you're coming out of nowhere and you say, my dream is to run 10K, or my dream is to do an Ironman, no matter what your dream is, if you have a dream and you achieve it, you gain a very important capability. And if you do it over and over again, and then the sky's the limit. And sports is a good way to get this kind of feeling, because I see myself, I adopt new hobbies. I try to adopt, like yoga is something relatively new. I do it for like 7 years. And when I started, I saw people doing headstands. I thought this will never happen. And, suddenly you do it. So
never say never.
So never say never, yeah. And, and there are other methods. I have friends who do like meditations, which I'm also into, but meditation is their drug. Or you can walk, or you can read in the morning, or any ritual that, the game in I think it's only in Israel we play it, like matkot, this stupid racquetball in the beach, where there's like one against, it's not against, because there's no rules and no winners. There's just a small black ball and we hit it from one side to another, right? The most stupid game in the world, but it's an amazing game. The magic of it is when you play it, because you need to be 100% present in the game. So there's no troubles in the world, and you're just in the game. So these kind of games or rituals, they are the detox.
Yeah, and also, as you said, eventually it makes you feel maybe like more self-belief and resilient, I guess, if you're, when you take the sports values and experiences to life. And I think it's a great thing. Again, I guess it's also you were able to do it when you had more money and funding, but maybe it's good for you also to think about it as core rules of a company, because it really has much more than just sports.
By the way, for me, it started in my first company when we were going down, and I sold my car. Okay, we had one car, just like my wife would drive on the kid, and I used, like, it happens, it was like a big lemon that fell on me. Okay, I need to save money, I'm selling my car, and I'm gonna start running and biking to the office. And just like many things in life, it starts because, you have to do it, and then you get used to it, and then you like it, and then you get obsessed over it, and then it's your way of life.
It becomes a part of you.
Yes, and I really don't know if back then, if I didn't have to sell my car, if I would roll into this morning sport obsession.
Yeah. And, when I came to this interview, just also for you to know, because I watched different interviews of yours, I tried I come here with the, I would say, approach of trying to understand your operating system. Again, what drives you, what incentivizes you, or how you think.
Mission impossible.
Mission impossible. We're trying to. And I think what you share now give us some kind of again, it's hard to learn a person 100% in an hour and a half. But I think that's what I'm trying to take from what you're saying. What is the operating system that actually works and help you get to where you did? And was there any, maybe it's a hard question, but was there any defining moment throughout your whole career that helped you become who you are today and, excel in this journey, I would say?
So I think it starts much earlier, even as a kid. I was fortunate to find myself in situations where I needed to work very hard and grind. All the way back when I was 10 years old, starting to play basketball. So I wasn't that good in basketball, but I decided that I'm going to make it to the team and I'm going to be the best defense player. Defense is not much about talent, it's more about effort.
Yeah.
And through this grind, I made it to the team and played all the way to the end of high school. And then it continued, and I kind of adopted this ability, which also in my first job in tech as a project manager. It was an amazing startup, Cashew, back then, full of Talpion and pilots, and everyone is like best in their field, and me, right? So I can't compete with them with their tech capabilities or IQ, but I can work harder than them. And so this kind of attitude, I think, later on helped me because, again, today, an entrepreneur, one of the toughest things is to last, it's a long marathon where it's a very difficult grind.
Yeah.
It's very hard to understand. Also, in my military service, so 4 years, back then it was Lebanon, Intifada, week after week after week, this grind.
Yeah.
And because today it's very easy to swipe left or right.
Yeah.
You come into a very steep hill, it seems like, okay, it's a waste of time, let's move and try something else. And I think the capability or the culture of continuing and carrying and being able to pass through these uphills that sometimes, just beyond them, there's a very nice trophy. Yeah. This is something that it's maybe a part of character, but you can train yourself.
Yeah.
And finding also when I talk to very young guys that look for the first job, and so I highly recommend for them to find startups with people that they think that they can get inspiration, because you can adopt
that are
these
different from them, that can complete them,
Yeah.
like you're saying, that you weren't the Talpiot or the pilot.
Yeah.
And you touched upon it a little, but I want to ask you this for if you can maybe go a bit deeper. What in your childhood shaped you into who you are today?
Wow. So in my childhood, I was all over. I think very versatile activity. I played basketball, played football, played anything. And
Specific team, right? There was a specific basketball
yeah,
team.
this is the Apol Ramat Gan. This is our favorite
Apol
team.
Ramat Gan.
But as a kid, I used to say, anything that has a ball, I'm in. Squash, ping pong, tennis, football, basketball, whatever.
Yeah.
Same as today. If you if we go on vacation, there's some kind of new game that we learn the rules.
Yeah.
I love playing. So I think the curiosity of starting something new, and also again in sports, you learn. You go on the court, and you're gonna shoot the ball, and you're gonna miss.
Yeah.
Right? And you're gonna miss, and you're gonna get injured. And these things happen, and you're gonna have bad times, and you have times where the coach doesn't like you. And if you manage to pass these mini crises, then it gives you these special magical glasses where the next time you hit the wall, you look at it and say, okay, I've been there. I know what it means. I'll continue, and I'll go on. So again, in childhood, with all the sports, and then obviously military service, and then being an officer at a young age. These are all things that build a good foundation. Yeah. And I think another important thing is this. It's kind of curiosity, but also open-minded. So I encourage again anyone that wants to start something new, or in any case, to go out, to be out there, to go to events, I remember I used to hate these conferences and meetups. I used to hate them. I went to hundreds.
But then you had no choice, right? As a startup founder, you had to go.
I went to anyone that I can, and in one of them, in Chicago, I met this guy who I didn't even want to have coffee with, which turned out to be my investor who made my exit and changed my life.
You can never know.
You can never know. And same as it's all the marathons in the runs, and you run, and it's boring. And in one of these marathons, I met Leo, which was my co-founder in Brink. He was our CTO. we built a company that changed our life. So being out there is also very important because these magical moments or this luck, it doesn't happen on Zoom. It doesn't happen on Instagram. It happens when you interact, and you can go to hundreds of these, and in one of them, you can meet someone who maybe will be your investor or your partner or whatever.
So I have to share something about that. I really agree with that. And Shachar. So there was actually someone, if you're talking about that, 10 years ago I was at an event and we met someone who actually introduced Shachar and me, and that's why I'm here in Startup Grind for like 10 years. And this someone is actually your brother. And when I asked you what in your childhood shaped you into being who you are today, I also asked him. And let's see what his answer is.
Opa.
What shaped Raanan to be who he is today?
Opa.
It's a small ecosystem.
Hey there, everyone. I'm Nimrod, Raanan's brother, and I was asked to think and tell you and share with you what was maybe the reasons or the uniqueness or whatever it is that pretty much during our childhood made Raanan who he is today. So honestly, I gave it a lot of thought, and I'm not sure there is like a specific event or anything like that, maybe other than just growing up next to me. But I think when I try to figure it out, I think that maybe the fact that both of us, and actually he's responsible for that as the older brother, are the fans of one of the worst teams in the top 2 leagues in Israel, which is the Ramadan. And during my entire childhood and afterwards, we pretty much suffered most of the games and most of the time. Maybe that created some kind of competitiveness or the ability to go through hard times, never give up, still believe that it can happen, maybe it will someday. So maybe that's like the point that made it so tough and know how to enjoy it from a hard way and believe that one day it somehow becomes something good. So maybe that.
They are real brothers, guys. If you had any doubt, he is his brother.
Don't believe every word that VC guys say. But yeah.
He was right. He wasn't far from your answer.
Actually, I think that.
And thank you, Shachar.
Nice.
For supporting
you will
us.
get for that. I think that the ability to just like running is like that for me. I love running, and it's not something that you really love. When you run, it's not like you say, "Wow, I'm running! It's so much fun." It's not like that, right? You maybe like the lifestyle, but it's grinding, and I think finding the ability to grind, to take a lot of shit, and even enjoy it as a kind of challenge. This is a very big gift that can help in the startup world. I used to, with Leo in Bring, my co-founder, sometimes, you had very tough days. And, you lose a customer, you lose an investor. You have a lot of these. So we used to close the door and we were very worried. And I used to tell them, sit down. Look at the game we're playing here. This is another twist we never expected. It's so much fun. And you kind of try to look at it like that. And again, all these mind tricks that help you pass another day.
So without even knowing, you actually wrote the story just a little more. Like every day at work, every challenge was writing your bestseller. And you said, don't believe this VC guy, but just so you guys know, so his brother, Nimrod Cohen, he's actually a VC. He's the general manager of Tau Ventures. I think he's been in VCs even before. Amazing person. If you haven't met them, I also recommend. And tell me more about VCs. So one of the biggest struggles of many people many entrepreneurs in front of us here is actually how to get money from VCs, who to approach, how to do it. Any golden tips? They won't come back to you if it won't work, but we can try.
We had so much fun. Now we need to talk about VCs.
Please. Do you want him to talk about
So,
VCs?
yeah, so, okay,
Yeah.
VCs, although now I'm also an investor, but I try to, I'm on the other side, I'm not on the investor side. VCs, I have, although I'm labeled in the industry as the guy who doesn't speak highly on VCs, I have a lot of VC friends and a lot of VCs that I appreciate, but not all of them are like that. But VCs are the engine for our industry, right? If I admire bootstrap startups, but it's very rare, and in many cases, when you want to build something big and global, you need external money. So VCs are the ones we need to approach. And VCs, although it's hard to believe, they're just human. And they act like humans. And I think eventually, although they are professional investors, all the things and all the basic instincts are true in case where we're trying to raise funding. And in funding, I like to look at two different steps of going to VCs. One is if it's our first time, first check ever, we're going out to raise our first money, or if we're already an established startup going for further rounds. So, and here I'm maybe trying to be more practical. If we are looking for the first money, VCs or angels or anyone, here my strong recommendation, and this is something that I did in Bring, I didn't do it in my first company, is to define yourself, okay, what is the dream checklist that if I would come with this checklist, the investor will say, wow, this is not something I'm going to miss out. Okay, now it's a subjective list because it depends on what you do.
Can you share an example? I mean, you're
So
saying
for example,
yeah.
if I'm a SaaS company, I need a $1 million ARR. If I'm a hardware company, I need a prototype working. And it changes also according to the season. When there's a big bubble, then the standards are lower, and when times are tougher, everything goes up. And this is something, by the way, that I used to ask the investors. I used to map out the potential investors and say, hey, I'm building a new company. It's a SaaS delivery management platform. We're selling to enterprises. What would be an ideal situation? What are the KPIs, the parameters that you would like to see in order for it to be an attractive investment for you? And they would answer back and say, okay, if you would show me you have 3 customers, maybe in the US, POCs, if you could show me that they validate your business model, meaning they're willing to pay. If you show me all these, this is something interesting. And I do these several conversations. I define my ideal checklist or my ideal profile, right? It's not Tinder, but it's similar. My ideal profile, only when I have everything in place. If I need like market analysis, if I need a website, if I need a POC, if I need a demo, I define all these things, including small things. Sometimes it's just cosmetics, like maybe investors today like to see they already have an office or whatever. Once I have only when I have all these in place, I will approach investors and VCs. Before that, I would not talk to them. I would just network with them, okay? If there's an event, hi, I'm working on something new. I'm not going into funding right now. I would hold back. It's tricky because many VCs and the investors, they're very open. They say, hey, even if you don't have a deck, come and talk to us. We'd like to brainstorm, hear your idea. Because they like options, right? If they hear my story, I'm on their radar, and they think they can step in. The thing is that they're not ready. If you are not in a place where they're ready to place a term sheet, then you cannot create this ideal situation of a FOMO and competition. So work on your checklist. Build a very, very attractive offering. Understand what is this offering. And once you have it, approach the right candidates. So this is for
Yeah.
new startups. For later on, this is a very different approach. Once you have a company that is running, you did your seed round, you have like 12, 18 months, whatever, of funding, don't wait. From day one, build a relationship with the next round, with the A round. Hi, I have a company, I did my seed round. It's too early for you now, but I would like you to be on your radar. What are your KPIs? Build a relationship with them. Maybe update them as much as you can. So this kind of practice.
So I like that you said to be around, to go to the events, even that you didn't
Yeah.
like going to events, but you realized early on that you want to be on their radar. You want them to
Yeah.
know who you are. So once you're ready with a checklist, even though it's not always easy to get it, but just to be there. And as you said, once you're preparing to the next round, and I think it's really important, coming from emphasis on business relationship and relationship in general, what would be, and maybe before that, again, another kind of nuggets from the book and then from our conversation, it seems like many of the names in the book were not real, but were kind of close. And I hope it's okay that I'm sharing, but you mentioned to me before that you actually, in the like initial manuscript, you actually wrote the real names of people. And then the lawyer said, no, you're not going to do it. So if you can give us some, on the one hand, I don't know, any interesting stuff about your relationship with the ecosystem back then when everything was very high. And also if you have some tips on building those relationships, because you have different stakeholders, if it's your partner or your first employee, or you just mentioned investors. So how do you see yourself in this ecosystem?
Yeah, so the book is like, it's like a fiction book, right? It's not a memorandum or whatever, but it's based on real events. And yeah, there's a game people are playing in the industry of guessing who is who. But I really looked at...
What do they get if they find it right?
So yeah, a lawsuit. I like really... I hate networking. I hate these events. And I knew this about myself, and I really forced myself. I forced myself to do it. By the way, in my office in Bring, there was a big whiteboard, and in capital letters at the top, it was go meet, don't mail. It's like, because I know it's a weakness of mine, I'm not the guy who walks into a conference and start drinking beers with everyone. I knew it's a weakness, but I knew it's something I need to work on and I need to do it, and I forced myself to do it. And just going to events and meeting and being on the radar. In both companies, also in the startup that I worked for, maybe these were the seeds back then. If you work in enterprise sales, like in the company I was the project manager, and then in sales, we used to sell to telecoms. It's not like you go and meet, or in Bring, we sold to McDonald's and Coca-Cola and Walmart. It's not like you meet someone in a conference, say, hi, I have this solution. And he says, wow, it's amazing, let's make a deal. It's never like that. It's a long, long relationship building where at first he just needs to know you and you get on the radar. I used to go to events and speak, and they would start following me, and it's kind of building a relationship. And when you're in the starting point, it looks very, very far away. You say, well, I'm going to go for this conference for customers that I may have in a year or two, or investors in a year or two. But then a year or two passes. And if you started early on, like building your pipeline, your network pipeline, then you will always have these leads that already know you. And it's something that, again, we're all in the game of increasing the luck, right? There's no secret formula to make it. We just can play on increasing our odds. And every interaction, every person, every podcast, every book, every sentence that we interact with can be the lucky one that makes the change. So I really, really forced myself into these events, and Leo, my co-founder, he was teasing me about it. He also hates it, and he didn't do it. Yeah. And so he would like say, hey, there's this new event, go, and this is going to be your evening. And it's just increasing your luck.
And, it seems like you're very you live with passion. You just shared it earlier that you're passionate about what you do, and also it seems like you're in today. And I guess before as well, but you're in a position where you inspire others a lot with your journey, with how you view life, with your different path. And who is your inspiration role model? I mean, I think some things are internal, like passion. I think it's who you are probably, but who's inspiring you?
I have a little secret. I have many mentors. Many mentors. There are not mentors that I sit with them once a week and talk about, but there are people that many of them don't even know. But there are people that I follow very closely and I try to interact with. For example, I have a 14-year-old mentor who teaches me about landing pages. He read my book, he saw I have a small website. He says, listen, this is shit. You don't do like that. And he started talking, and I said, listen, it's a 14-year-old kid. He makes like 100,000 shekel a month. He has an amazing Instagram page. Listen, I'm going to follow you. I'm going to come with questions. And I have another mentor in a social media. So this is also something that I picked up along the way. When I see someone that is interesting or that, I don't know, I'm curious about, I double down. I follow them. I read everything they write. I listen to them. I try even to get friendly with them. And this is something that also today I'm also like a startup guy in a new world in the book industry, and now it's going into other formats, and it's exactly the same. I came into a new world. I didn't even know the terminology, and I started meeting people and I started following people, and it's not like everyone that you write, you say, okay, I'm going to help you, but if you do it enough, there will be the ones that would. And in today's world, it's amazing because of all the social media. So other than following Apollo Ramat Gan and the depression and my team, you can follow really amazing people that share and get inspired by it, and just be open.
And when it comes to mentorship, either people you know or you want to know or you don't know, what would be your recommendation for founders how to deal with it?
So active mentorship is amazing. It's very tough. I mean, I do it. I'm now in a program with Monday and some with Reichman. But like, for example, when my book was released, so in the first week, I posted in Startup for Startups. And I wrote at the end that I help and mentor startups, and that night I received 120 requests from startups. I understood.
Only?
I understood. Yeah, it's the first night, so I understood it. I cannot work like that. So I need to find a scalable way to share podcasts and other stuff. But if you manage to find yourself along the way, and while in the journey in MobileMax and in Bring, I had several of these like mentors that were pretty much, I think, founders just a few rounds ahead of me, that it wasn't something formal, but kind of like I adopted them, they adopted me, and helped me along the way, and sometimes it changes. So the problem is, like, for example, with VCs and investors, they really have good intentions. They say, listen, come, every problem, all your problems, come sit with us, share with us, we'll help you. But they don't really want that, right? They want the superstar. I mean, if you come with the problems, they try to help, but you'll probably be flagged down for the next round. They want the one who says, listen, you're wasting my time, I know what I'm gonna do, move aside. That's the ones they really want, right? When the shit hits the fan, and in the board meeting, everyone is worried, they say, hey guys, relax, go home, have a drink, it's okay. This is the ones they really want. So you can't really consult with the investors. Also, even if you meet them on a weekly basis, it's so intense that they can't. You can't consult with them. It's very hard also to consult with other people in the industry, because when you go to meetups of startups and you ask, how is it going, so you have to answer, it's going fabulous, it's going great, amazing. Killing it, wow, amazing. This is, by the way, one of the biggest problems of the industry. I remember myself going into these meetups and then going home, trying to sleep at night, saying, hey, I'm the only one who's eating shit here. everyone looks so confident.
Exactly.
And so you can't consult with them. So the only ones that you can probably talk to are like entrepreneurs that maybe are like in just a little more further down the road, and they still remember that they were in your seat, and they are open. And by the way, this is what's amazing and unique. I have a lot of bad things to say about our startup nation, but this is what's super unique and amazing here, that if you think that if I would now open a real estate company or an investment firm, I could call one of the guys of the big firms and say, hey, I have a new company, can we have coffee and can you help?
And you don't have to be like a, ex-unicorn founder.
Yes, it doesn't happen in any
It can
industry.
happen to anyone here.
Yes,
Yeah.
and in the tech, in Israeli tech especially, I think that it's like it's the culture that we built in the industry where entrepreneurs that succeeded, they even feel the urge to give back and share back.
Yeah.
So with these guys, especially when they don't come from a position, it's easier to get some advice. But again, eventually you're alone in this road. It's like.
So you're saying running, like keep your heads on the go, making sure you maybe even finding balance. And I think maybe it's bad or hard word to say, but how could you find some kind of mental balance or get into your center through those very hard times?
So I think it's a lot of expectations game with ourselves, and this was one of my strongest passions to write the book, because of this fake it till you make it and this La La Land. This makes it even tougher. So I strongly believe that understanding that this journey, this marathon, has a lot of pain in it, and really understanding it, this is something that could be helpful. For example, think about it. When you go on a hike, or everyone with their own activities. If I go on a marathon, I have a marathon Friday, I'm totally out of shape for a marathon. I know I'm going to suffer. Right?
Yeah.
And it's going to be 4 hours, more than 4 hours. After 2-3 hours, it's going to be really painful. And when this will happen, I hope that I will remind myself, hey, you remember that you knew that this will happen. This is what you signed up for. This is reality. It's not, you cannot find a different way to avoid this, to overcome this. This is reality. Same for the entrepreneur and the journey. You will have moments where the investor pulled the term sheet, or the key employee left the company, or things that you totally didn't expect happened, and everyone would kind of disappear, and you would be left alone, and you would need to pick up yourself. And so understanding this, like really, really deep, helps once you hit these situations. And there's a very, very slight difference between problems to avoid and reality to adapt to. Okay, if I'm running all year round, I know I will run in days where it will rain. It will happen. This is what I'm doing, right? So it will rain in our entrepreneurship journey. It will be like shitty, stormy. This will happen. So like it's like mantra that we need to keep repeating to ourselves. And this is the path.
Is it. So 2 things come to mind. One is, I think this very key sentence in your book is like, if you're getting into a board meeting and you're not sure who's going down, then it might be you, right? That's kind of the sentence. So, you have to deal with so much. But I love what you said about the expectation, because if you know that's what's going to happen, you know there are going to be rainy days, then maybe you'll be more ready for the journey. And if you take it to Buddhism, it's also about suffering. Like life is suffering, and I know you're also in those worlds. So was it before you were in the yoga or after you were in the yoga?
So yeah, in parallel, for
Yeah.
example, Stoicism also is something, it's a Greek philosophy about handling pain and stuff like
Yeah.
that. A lot of concepts over there. One of the entrepreneurs that I was the first investor, he studied philosophy. He didn't come from tech. And he bought me a very nice book about Stoicism. So yeah, these concepts are also things that I found very helpful in generally in life. But again, there are many ways it needs to be something that you relate to.
Yeah.
And sometimes it comes in stages. Yoga, for example, I tried in the last 20 years. It took me like 13 years to find the right
Me too, actually.
instructor.
Yeah.
And
took a while.
you know, I thought it's not for me. And eventually, when I was ready, it happened. So, yeah.
And before we're going to move to your questions, you mentioned that now your new passion was or is writing, and you wrote the book, and you wrote an amazing, and it's kind of a relatively longer book than any average book. And I want to ask you, what was one of the most exciting, heartwarming, or maybe impactful comments that you received on your book? רק עוד קצת ודי, just a little more, just a little bit more.
I insisted to have my mail in the book. Usually in books, I don't know why, there's no like email. And I get every day mails and messages, very exciting, sometimes funny, sometimes messages from entrepreneurs, from various people that relate to the book. So I don't know how X-rated we should go, but like the funniest message I ever received was, do you have an OnlyFans page? But I get, well, yeah.
What was the answer?
I'm working on it. So there's but seriously, like, for example, there was a message I got from an entrepreneur. He wrote me, listen, I'm writing you from Thailand. I'm in a family vacation. I closed my startup 6 years ago. Since then, I was in depression, on treatment, and on drugs, no cure. And I just finished reading your book, and I told my wife, I'm feeling that I'm healed. I took 3 days away from the family. I wanted to write you about it, and we opened the channel. This is like, it's still goosebumps. Wow. And I asked him, what? So he says, that feeling that normalized his journey, understanding that this is the road. It's not him failing or whatever. So I get a lot of messages like that. But I also get messages from spouses of entrepreneurs saying, listen, it's
what
great.
Did you do?
We understand now what's going on. Or, and recently it became even more mainstream. So crowds that are totally not related to finance, tech, law firms. I get messages about that. It's a very long book. It's 448 pages. Today, usually books are like 300 or even less, and now I'm learning script writing for TV series, and one of the lecturers says, you can never have a bestseller if you don't have sex or blood. And he says, except for your book, he read my book, he says, because with your book, it's even more brutal than blood, and it's more X-rated than sex, all the desire. So yeah, it's a book with that somehow worked out in a way where it touches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, if I may say, I think in many aspects, your book portray the Israeli dream, the saying, the American dream. So I think it's kind of the Israeli dream, of someone who, fought and against all odds, because odds are small, you're able to achieve what you achieve, create a unicorn, playing it big, and now also in the book. And maybe the silver lining that I'm seeing there throughout your journey was to impact people. I mean, being a founder is, you want to change the world. You want to help people make something better, right? You want to solve something. And also in the book, you're really changing lives. So I think that's amazing, and I want to thank you for it. And I think it definitely deserves a round of applause for being who you are. Simple than that.
In Bring, when we started building the team, and it was like the top of the bubble, and it was very hard to get superstars. One of the key selling points in my pitch, it depends on the bubble situation, but back then it wasn't an interview. It was you pitch for the. So one of the key selling points I used to pitch was that in MobileMax, my first company, out of the company grew over 10 CEOs and entrepreneurs that started, and I told them, Bring is going to be the same. I called it the best MBA in the world, because both Leo and myself, we're very open and we mentor, and if you're curious, you can learn stuff here. And also with Bring, we have over a dozen CEOs that came out. So I think this is something that I'm really, really happy and proud of. And, now the ability to do it in a larger scale is a big gift. So it's really, really super exciting.
And definitely, through your book, as you said, that instead of those 120 people that wanted to speak with you, they can at least get the book if you're less available for them all at once.
And if you don't like books and you don't know the big books, I became like a podcast girl.
Man.
Yeah, I've been a lot of podcasts, and
you can
so
find it.
I share anywhere that I can.
Thank you. All right, guys, over to you. Questions? Yes, your name? Peleg.
In English?
Yes, please.
So thank you, first of all. And,
1 second.
So you talked about how information used to be way less accessible, and now information feels like it's almost too accessible, and we're flooding in information, and also with AI, so everyone has access to great tools and that can do things no one could dream of like a few years ago. So do you think the ecosystem became too flooded, and how do you stay, as a first-time entrepreneur, how do you stay above the flood and bring something to the market? And if you were to start your first startup now, how would you attack this problem? How do you?
Yeah, so I think that the information and data and tools are a little overrated. Again, and today it's even more because everything is accessible, and it's easier for us always to think, okay, I just need to know that. I just need to research that. I don't just need that and that. There's always something that we feel that we're missing.
Just a little bit more.
Just a little bit more, yeah. And we don't invest enough in the mental and emotional capabilities and skills that are needed, because it's not tangible. It's if I want to start a startup now, it's easier for me to map out the things that I really need. So we don't invest much in these, and it's kind of, you're flooded with workshops, with information, with tools, with data. I think the number one thing to understand is that as an entrepreneur, the most important thing is to get started. It's not to have everything figured out. You need to understand that you're jumping in the water where there's a lot of black holes, a lot of missing bricks, and you'll figure it out along the way. Just get started. That's something that didn't change. And along the way, you need to be very open. When we started Bring, again, a logistics solution, I remember our first like we did a roadshow in the US. We didn't even know to which customers we're selling, okay? So we met food delivery companies, we met DHL and UPS, obviously not senior guys. And we came to the table, we didn't come in a position where, okay, we're going to disrupt your market and we said, listen, we come from the startup world, we believe there's an opportunity. We would like to learn from you. You're the logistics guy. I mean, it's a company 130 years old. You know, we don't know logistics. We want to hear what's your pain, what you're looking for, and if there's something that we can do. So this same approach, I think, is critical today to get started, to understand you're not the expert in this field that you're going into. And you're building your way and building your network. Me, again, I find myself that like every decade, I fall into a new industry. First it was cellular, then logistics. Now it's books and TVs. I have no network, I don't know anything. And you build it along the way. So get started, the information, the tools, whatever you need, figure them out along the way. But work also on building your resilience and the mental capabilities.
Thank you. Yes. Anyone else? Questions? Yeah?
So I have a question. You said before you are a father to four, and I wanted to know how you handled being a father to four, doing sports every day, managing a startup company. That's the first question. But how was that for you as a...
And your name? Sorry, your name?
Itai.
Itai. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so when I started my first company, I was 34. Our twin girls were like 2-3 years old. So it was a very tough time, and Ravit, my wife, she had a career in advertising. It's super demanding. It's much more than tech. So both of us were like that. And frankly, back then when I worked in this startup, I was sure that I was about to be kicked off. I was sure that I moved into sales, and I was sure that I'm not delivering enough. And so I was sure that it's just a matter of time until they throw me out. So this helped me a lot to make the decision to jump into the water. And back then, I remember Ravit and we had a talk about it. I told her, listen, this is the situation. I'm going to get fired. I don't know when. I have this dream of opening my own company. It's like super crazy life. And she said, okay, let's do it. And it was very tough in the beginning. Today, my daughters are 23 years old. Okay, so we talked about it after the book was released. I asked them, listen, do you remember your childhood? Do you feel that they missed out or whatever? So surprisingly, and even not surprisingly, they said no. They remember themselves growing up in my office. They came a lot to the office. I tried to be at the weekends at home. So even if I needed to fly to New York for 30 hours, I used to come back. I tried not to be more than 1 weekend away, like every 2 months or something. So weekends I was at home, and they came a lot to the office, and you juggle it. You know, when you think about it, frankly, it's not like if friends that are all day at home, you know, it's not like you read books to your kids all day, right? Mm-hmm. So it's very tough, but it's manageable. And I think in today's life, also if you're not an entrepreneur, even if you're a lawyer or an advertising firm or in investments or whatever you do, life is crazy. So it's better to buy the lottery ticket. That's what I think. And so the thing, and to your question with the sports, here my wife thinks that the more kids we had, the mileage grew. Right? Half marathon, Ironman, ultra. No, but so I think that here, it's just a decision, right? I made a decision. It fell on me that instead of driving to work and spending 30-40 minutes in traffic and whatever, I used to run or bike. And okay, so today it's a luxury. Today I'm more flexible. I think you can still squeeze it in. Yeah?
Cool. And a second question, you talked about building your portfolio, or like your profile. I would like to know how you first approached the VCs for getting back actually like what they want to know. You get my question?
Yeah. So, yeah, in my second company in Bring, it was easier, obviously, but because when you're a second-time founder, they take you more seriously, and it's easier to say, hey, I have a SaaS startup. What are the metrics that would make this a dream investment for you? And I would literally interview them. And I set a question. I used to ask things that I was embarrassed to ask in my first one. For example, do you like to lead or do you like to co-invest? What is your ideal check size? Like all these questions that are fair, and they are happy to answer. You just need to ask. So, I think just asking. Obviously, again, VCs, some of them are less approachable, some of them are more. But when you go to these events, I was in an event in one of the law firms where there were like 4 VC representatives. So they didn't send the partners, but they sent the principals, which is even better. Because with them you can really talk more freely, and you kind of build the puzzle by just networking and talking with them.
Hi, Yanir.
The marathon man.
Yeah. So
First marathon on Friday.
Woo, good luck.
I finished reading your book just a few weeks ago while preparing for the marathon, and it's very inspiring. I think it's in a way a playbook for entrepreneurs. So thanks for writing. I have 2 questions. I think that the part where you are thinking about selling the $10 million, your part of your equity for $10 million, and deciding not to do so, it's one of the most dramatic parts of the book. And,
Of my life.
Yeah. And I think, first question is, how do you think it affected, or if you regret anything in the relationship that you developed later with the investors that bring? And second question is, if you have any kind of guidelines or rules for, like, this is kind of a tzarot tovot, it's like a good situation to be in when you are considering to sell part of your equity. So for entrepreneurs that stand in this situation, what guidelines or tips do you have?
Yeah, so for me, again, it's not a unique story. You just don't hear about it. I have many friends who had shares that are worth tens of millions of dollars and didn't sell, and it ended up with nothing. It happens. It's very hard to imagine. It's just like in a cold day, it's hard to imagine a very dry desert weather. And when you're in the desert, it's hard to imagine snow. Same here. When the bubble is crazy, I was really believing MobileMax was back then, I don't know, $100 million or 150. I was sure it's going to be $1 billion. So why should I sell now? There's no way, there's no chance that things will change, and things happen. So, it happens a lot. And today, so it's, I think I mentioned in one of the podcasts, today I find it hard to do one-on-one meetings with entrepreneurs, but I have an emergency line, okay? The emergency line has 2 cases. One is if you have a chance to sell your company or to sell some shares, and you're thinking not to sell, call me immediately, right? I'll talk to you, you'll sell. The second case, if suddenly you walk into a room and your investors want to throw you out, say, hey, hold on, call me, and we'll talk about it and see what we can do. But not selling shares is conversations that I used to have, like until 3 years ago, with a lot of entrepreneurs when the bubble was super crazy and no one wanted to sell. I think today people are more relaxed. I think also it's a matter of culture that in the US, in the Silicon Valley, it's also VCs and everyone is more open to it. They understand that if you sell along the way, of course we're talking about when the company is succeeding, right? Not
Yeah.
if it's failing. If it's succeeding, Americans are super capitalists. They understand that once you touch that feeling and understand that these shares can be real, and if your dream was $1 million, your dream will only grow. Entrepreneurs are highly competitive and highly self-driven people. You can't turn down this power by them getting money. You can only increase their dreams, which works also for you. So, and I think also in Israel now today, also many firms understand that. And I think like the fair gameplay, that if a startup starts after a few years, it gets some substantial value. It's okay that employees and entrepreneurs cash out a little, and I think it's more acceptable. So we need to keep this in mind, because when the greedy days come back, then suddenly we want just a little bit more.
Thank you. One more question.
Yes, so one more question.
And your name again?
Ben.
Ben.
So you talked about starting in the morning, finishing late, and forgetting what's happening in the morning because days are so crazy. So my question is, did you consult your wife along the way? Because I found myself go home talking with my spouse, and like, it's not her life, she doesn't understand the way I think, my lifestyle, so did you share your thoughts?
Yeah, you know, my editor, he said, listen, the guy in the book, Ron Carmeli, he doesn't talk too much about work with Rona, his wife. It doesn't make sense. I told him, listen, this is, sometimes that's the way it happens. Because I think the way it worked for us, again, because it's so intense and you're so much time at work, even if you want to share how was your day and you want to really share, yeah, you know, it's a never-ending story, and so many things happen. This is one thing. I think the other thing also is that I felt the need to protect. And, you know, these ups and downs, daily ups and downs, and things, everything is under control, it will happen. And this is the way we found ourselves managing this kind of lifestyle. So obviously, so you just need to raise the threshold of okay, listen, we had something that I want to share with you. And if you have a round or things like that, obviously my family was very involved in the company, visited a lot. But regarding sharing your problems, at least for me, I felt that it will only make things more complicated. So I played like I'm the hero, everything is cool, and don't worry. And I have friends that have different models.
Okay, so there you go. Before we finish, when we were just outside, we had a chit-chat, and you said that one sentence can change someone's life. So what would be this one sentence that you think can change others or change you? For the final words of the interview.
I think the one sentence that I love, like the best slogan in the world is like, just do it. So I said, just jump into the water. That's like the slogan that I love. And, you know, maybe in a few years, I'll get a text and say, hey, remember the day you said jump in the water? I decided to jump in the water. By the way, I received many notes about running that people wrote me, listen, we read your book, we went back to running. I have some running freaks that say, listen, this entire book, these tech guys, they don't know, it's only a cover-up for your running fantasies.
You should create a running team. You know?
But yeah, I know it on myself. Sometimes a sentence like catches you. So if someone is hesitating, you know, jump into the water, take the step.
Just do it.
Yeah, make the magic happen.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Definitely.